So, hello everyone, and greetings of the day. Maybe all of us are sitting in the different time zones, and today we are going to discuss regarding serverless computing with the help of Spring Cloud Function. So, it's not only going to be a theoretical session. Instead, I'm having a complete demo ready with me for you guys, which we will be showing in this particular session. Yeah. So let me just quickly see. Okay, everything is fine. Let me just start with this session then, main stuff. So first of all, So first of all, let me just introduce myself. This is me, Abhishek Verma. I'm a senior analyst learning at Infosys. I'm basically in order to make this role simple, so I'm a corporate Java and a Spring trainer at Infosys, and I'm based in Chandigarh, India. Till now, I have taken 300 plus sessions in my past 4 plus years of career for various professionals as well as the freshers. Beside this, I have also authored multiple courses as well as certifications for the Infosys Learning Platform. I have even cleared plethora of internal Java and cloud certifications. And here you can see that there are few badges which I have shown here. So almost from all the cloud platforms I have done. And among these, my favorite one is this Java SE11 developer. Yeah. So I guess all those who are from Java, they can relate why I'm saying so, that why this is being my favorite. Yes, others are also very favorite and they are very important. That's why I have kept them here. Yeah. So that was all about me. Later on, I'll share my LinkedIn ID as well as my Gmail ID. So there you can connect with me and we can discuss more. Now, let me just quickly go through what we are going to cover. So first of all, we will start with the importance of serverless computing. We'll try to understand why serverless computing, what is serverless computing. Then we'll see that what is the role of Spring Cloud function in this, how this thing came along with the Spring serverless computing. Then after this, these are going to be the only two theoretical stuff, and then we'll quickly try to move towards creating the application as well as deploying the application on AWS. I will be making the URL public so that all of you can hit the application and you can test whether it is actually working fine or not. Yeah. So let's proceed with this. Yeah. So let's start with the serverless computing here first of all. Yeah. And this part I'm just trying to keep basic just to give you a brief idea why serverless is required. So let's assume that there was a requirement, that there was an image having some copyright on this. As you can see that on this image we have this something written copied on it. Yeah. Now you are thinking to create some application where you can just upload the image and then you can get some output something like this, free of copyright. I mean, anything extra you want to remove, that can be removed. Yeah. So now for this you have created an application and it's working fine for you, and then you feel let's make it public, let's make it useful for others also, whosoever wish they can use it. Yeah. Now that's a very good idea, but for this you need to host this application on some particular server and then only you need to make it public. Yeah. Now for hosting on the server, I hope you agree with me that you need to pay money. If you are going on cloud also, there also you need to pay money for this. Yeah. And what are the chances that someone will be using our application? Maybe as and when required they will be using. Yeah. And whenever they will use, it will be like for very small amount of time, just an upload, and quickly it will be downloaded. So few milliseconds job it is going to be. So maybe in a month you may have just 10 requests or maybe 100 requests, but all those requests will be served within few milliseconds. Even if I say 100 requests are coming per month, so they will be served within 100 milliseconds. Yeah. But you are paying for the server 24/7 into 30 days. Yeah. Because it is not possible for you that whenever someone makes a request then only you make it up or you make it down. Yeah. So that was one pretty case. Now see, we are making our application up every time, we are paying for that, but actual usage is very less, 100 milliseconds, even for the 100 requests. Yeah, and maybe they will be paying us or not. Another option is something like generating monthly reports at the end. Now, there may be some kind of application which will be generating the reports, but I don't need to use it on all the 30 days. I just want that it should be up maybe on the last day of the month, or maybe in the last week of the month, whenever I will be using. But then also I need to make it up 24/7 every time. Yeah. Other options can be like our mobile transactions, which we are doing. I'm deliberately using it. Later on, I'll show you the real life case study related to it. Yeah, mobile transactions. There we see that the spike is so gradual. Many times, if it is some festive season, maybe many people will be doing shopping and they will be doing transactions. And when there is nothing, maybe no one is doing. Yeah. Other option is like chatbots. Maybe people are using, or maybe they are not using. Even I say the example of the Amazon. So people are going to their website, but how many people may be using some chatbot on it? Chances are rare. Yeah. So here comes the question that why should I be keep running these servers 24/7 when they are not in the actual usage? I mean, why should I pay for these kinds of servers where the application which I'm running is actually going to come into the usage for a very small moment of time? Yeah. So that is the case. I hope that's clear. Anyone having doubt in this, feel free to ask in the chats. I hope the queries are clear. Yeah. Okay, that's great. Yeah, seems fine. Yeah. Let's proceed with it if you are clear with the scenario. So then, I mean, let me move to the next. So that was like why serverless. So now we are clear when it is required. Yeah. Now let's see, what do we mean by serverless? Does it mean we are not going to use server at all? How is it possible? Where is it going to be deployed then if we are not going to use server? It's not at all possible. Yeah. So let's compare it with a normal scenario. This is a developer and this is a particular server. Now, usually developer is going to deploy the application on this particular server like this, and then whosoever is the client. Yeah. Now the application is deployed there 24/7. Now the client will come, the client will make a request, client will go away. But the application is still there. I'm still paying for it. Even when someone makes a request or not, it's there. But in the serverless, that's not a case. So first of all, serverless doesn't mean server is not going to be there. Server will remain there. And as a developer, you are going to deploy your application on server only. Yeah. But now comes the trick. Whenever any request is going to come, your application is going to use those computing resources. Yeah. And in case if there is no request, then your application is not going to use any of the computing resources. Since no computing resource is in the usage, so you don't need to pay for it. Again, when some request came, that is again some trigger came, then the application will start using those resources. Yeah. And it completely depends on how fast you are able to respond to that query. So let's say the request came and within 2 milliseconds you responded to that query, which means within 2 milliseconds you gave the output. So you are just using the server for 2 milliseconds and then again it's gone. So overall you just need to pay for those 2 milliseconds. Yeah. So that will keep on happening. Whenever the request will come, it will start using. Whenever it will go, it will just release all these. And because of this, even if, and for this, you basically, you don't need to do anything. You are just sitting cool aside and not, you don't need to worry for at all. At end of the month, you will see that, okay, whatever the number of requests comes, that into your time for every request, that you multiply for that much amount of time you were using your server. Yeah. So that is the actual meaning of serverless. Yeah. So that's the case here. Now, maybe you have heard the terms platform as a service and function as a service, which are very popular terms in the in cloud. Yeah. And you may be just a little confused. What is the difference between PaaS and FaaS? Let's see. So platform as a service means that you are going to use a server 24/7. It doesn't mean whether someone will request or not. But on the other hand, here we are just going to use the server only for the number of requests. Whenever the request will come, it will use the server. Yeah. Here we say it is a more controlled environment because scaling up and scaling down is in your hands. But here that is not a case. It's not at all the controlled environment. If there is no request, it will scale down to zero. If millions of requests will come, it will scale accordingly. Yeah. And clouds are efficient to do that purpose. Here we say the whole application is deployed. Here we say just a function is deployed. Because as I said, you hit a particular URL, some output will happen. So just one method or a function is deployed. Here, this is for the complex enterprise level applications. This is for a part of that application, lightweight application, or just as I said, a chatbot, a part of it. Here we are going to pay for whatever the server we are going to use 24/7. But here you are just going to pay for the number of requests. If there is no request, no money. If 100 requests, that much amount you need to pay accordingly. Yeah. So that was a quick comparison. Now let me uh, describe that what all various serverless offerings are available, on which all platforms we can use it. So AWS says that I can offer it under the name of Lambda. So they call it as Lambda as the function as a service. GCP says, Google Cloud Platform says it is cloud function, and Azure says it's as a function app. Yeah. So these are the various names. Working is almost similar, and even if you see, they are going to support a large variety of languages. Yeah. But we being a Java developers, and Java, if you see on the GitHub also, if you see, Java is the most useful language. Most of the product projects in almost all the companies are using Java. So hence we want something that how we can deploy our Java application, or in the Java also, as you know, that Spring Boot is a famous framework, how we can deploy it. So our focus is going to be on Java basically. Yeah. Now I would like to show you a quick case study, a real life one. Okay. So Coca-Cola, I hope all of you are familiar with. Yes. So in the Coca-Cola, you must have seen these kinds of vending machines from where you just need to scan a code, or you need to pay some money, and then the drink comes out of it. Yeah. So earlier at the back end, how it happens is that there is some payment. So whenever you are going to scan this code, then a particular API is going to be called through that particular payment gateway, whatever it is using. Now that REST call is going to invoke some function at the backend. That function will validate and it will deduct the money, and all these things are going to happen. And then if required, they will send you a push notification also. Now earlier for this job, they were using platform as a service, the actual servers they were using, and they found that their yearly cost is something $13,000. Yeah. So $13,000 was their overall cost when they were using platform as a service. But the moment they switched towards function as a service or serverless computing, the overall cost came just to $4 per year. Okay. So the cost came to that much down. Yeah. And that's a big number. Not only this, the speed also increased. Yeah. Because here, whenever the cloud will see that multiple requests are coming, it will automatically scale up. Whenever it will see that no request is there, it will automatically scale down. Yeah. So serverless will not only help you to bring your cost down, but it will also help you to bring the overall time down. Yeah. So that was the actual case study. Beside this, if you wish to do a comparison, so here I'm having one. So one side I'm having this EC2 with me. Yeah. EC2, as you know, this is like a virtual machine in the cloud. So all of you are who are aware with the EC2, they must be aware of it. Now let's say that we wish to deploy some application and we wish to go for the minimum configuration. So I will be using an operating system of Linux, and instance is T2.nano. T2.nano is nothing but around half a GB memory it is going to provide you. Yeah. Then quantity, let's say we are using one, and we are going to use, I mean, obviously you are going to use 24/7. You are not going to make it up and down again. So at end of the month for this particular thing, if you see, you need to pay $4.53. And it doesn't depends whether there is any request or no request to your application. You still need to pay the same money. But on the other hand, in the FAS, that is function as a service, serverless Lambda, if I say, so almost a similar architecture, but here you are not going to choose the operating system. Here we are choosing the memory as 512 MB. Let's assume that every request is going to take 100 millisecond, because it's all about the speed. Okay, so you need to ensure that whenever someone is going to hit the API, they should quickly get your output. Yeah, and let's say that there were 1 lakh 50,000 requests per month. So these many requests came per month. Yeah, and then if you see the cost, it is just going to be $0.16. That's it. And that too I'm considering when I'm not taking into the consideration the free tier, because free tier says that I will be allowing you 10 million requests per month free of cost. So AWS Lambda, which is, like you saw, it is the serverless offering of AWS, that gives us 10 million requests free of cost. So that is the case that if now, like for all the applications we have started using cloud, so why should not we use AWS Lambda, the serverless offerings of it? Yeah. And there comes the importance of these serverless. I hope by now all of you are clear. Anyone having any doubt, let me just go through the chats once. Is that application is shut down until it is needed, but this raises on every request the application is starting up. Yes, absolutely correct, Mario. That is the reason the starting up of the application is going to take more time. Now, because of that issue only, there comes Spring Cloud function, which will ensure that it will not take too much amount of time. We are going to see that in the reality. Yeah. And here only for the demonstration purpose I shown this. Actually, what happens whenever one request comes, it is going to use that particular thing for almost like 15 to 20 minutes. Yeah. So almost for 15 to 20 minutes it is going to use, and then only it is going to be down. So if required, you can also make one more kind of trigger that after every 20 minutes it is going to recall that particular application. Yes, but within those 15 to 20 minutes also, you don't need to pay for all the 20 minutes. You just need to pay for 2 millisecond when it is actually working and doing something. Yeah. So that's the essence of it. Yeah. So only first request is going to be very slow, which we call as cooling period. Yeah. All other requests are going to be fast, and that I'm going to show in the reality. Now let me just quickly move to a final thing. I'll skip that part, to the Spring Cloud function, what it is. Yeah. So the Spring Cloud function says it's actually a subpart of Spring Boot only. Yeah. So here it says that whatever is your business logic, you should be able to write it in the format of a function. Now, these functions are nothing but the same functions which you saw in your Java 8 functional interface. Yeah. So you should be able to write your business logic in that particular term. That's the first condition. And then it says that we are going to decouple it from the runtime, because you saw so many vendors were there. Now you may say that, okay, all these vendors are going to provide their inline editors. So why shouldn't I use those inline editors? The reason is, if you will use those inline editors, you can't use the benefits of Spring Boot, because that's just a normal editor. How will you bring your whole application there? Another issue is that moving from a editor of AWS to GCP, the whole scenario changes. Yeah, many things changes. But here, when we are making it with the help of Spring Cloud function, then it is completely, your application is completely decoupled from the runtime target, because for this you just need to add one dependency in your pom.xml. No big change in your application. Your application can still remain same only. Yeah. So we say it is completely decoupled from the runtime target. And not only that, we are going to run it on serverless. We can still run it on our on premises normal servers. There also it will still work fine. Yeah. and beside that on cloud it will be working. Beside this, we will be getting almost all the benefits of Spring Boot, like we say the production ready application, opinionated approach, all other dependencies also you can add, Spring Data, JPA, Spring Security, all those dependencies can still be used here. Yeah. And again, we say it is going to be completely customizable. So whatever you wish, I mean, all the benefits of Spring Boot plus the benefits of serverless. Now, when these two things are going to combine, we need to use Spring Cloud function for this. Yeah. So there comes the main trick. And that way we are going to make that startup time very less. Yeah. Now, what is it? So as I said here, first of all, we need to mention everything in the functions. Yeah. So either we can use our normal approach, imperative function. Later on, I'll show you that how to write all these functions. So here you can see there is a normal function, which is going to take a string value from the user, and in the end it is just going to make it to uppercase and return this string value back. If you wish, we can make usage of Spring Reactive. Nowadays Flux and all Mono, all these are in more usage with enormous amount of data. So reactive also you can use. If you wish, you can use a mixed approach, imperative plus reactive, that also can be done. Then, as I said, application can be deployed on locally, and just by adding a dependency, you can deploy the same application on all the major cloud platforms very easily without any big changes. And today we will be seeing this Lambda function in picture. Yeah. So that's the case. Now coming how to use, what all changes we need to make in our application. So usually, like we have a controller layer, REST controller layer. Then we have a service layer. Then we have a rapport layer. Beside this, we have DTO and entity classes. That's a usual three-tier architecture we are going to follow. Yeah. And almost in all applications we use. Now in the REST controller layer, we use REST annotations, get mapping, post mapping, put and delete all these mappings. Yeah. So now the trick is that the controller only you need to change. All other things will remain same. Controller you remove. Instead of it, you need to make a separate class, and there you need to write everything in the functional interface. Yeah. So that means there is not going to be any REST annotations. All REST annotations are gone now, and instead the same logic you need to write with the help of your functional interface. You may be thinking that how is it possible? How is it possible that without any annotation it will make a call and it will work? How will I be able to write it in that way? So for that, we'll quickly see how to do that kind of mapping. Yeah. So that's the last part, theoretical part. Then we'll move towards the code, which I'm having ready with me. So let's say the requirement is there is no input and there is just some output. Yeah. So these kinds of requests we have seen multiple times in our applications. No input comes and just we are going to return some output with some URL. Okay. Now, generally, you agree with me that for this, you will be using some get mapping annotation. And the example can be something like this. A get mapping annotation was there. The method is generate. You will call some URL. And whenever you will call this, so it will return you the date in the after formatting and converting to string. Now, the same thing if I wish to write in the functional interface, can you think of any functional interface which can do the same job? I mean, the functional interface should not be taking any input and it should be just returning you something. Any idea? If you can just think of that functional interface, which doesn't takes any input from you and it will be just returning you some value back. Producer. Okay. Yeah. Actually, the name which we are going to call for that is supplier. Yeah. The supplier we will be using there. Yeah. That's the perfect name which we are having, the predefined functional interface. So we can do the same job with the help of supplier. Now, as you can see, there is no get annotation available here. And I'm just writing a supplier. Yeah. And in the supplier, I'm mentioning here the data type, what it is going to supply. So it is just going to supply you a string. So from the normal Spring REST, I have changed my application to Spring Cloud function. So that's the only change we need to make. And that way I say we are writing our method as a functional interface. Yeah. Then let's see the another trick, another case. So let's say there was some input, uh, and there was some output. So someone want to save a customer in the database. So gave a customer body to the user, and in return they want some string message, success message, or maybe a failure message. So for this, generally we use post mapping, as you all know. And then it will behave like this. So let's say here I'm taking a string input from the user, and I will be converting it to uppercase and returning with the help of post mapping. Now the same I can do with the help of a function, which is a functional interface. So here I'm mentioning that it is going to receive a string. Here I'm mentioning it is going to return a string. Again, any input data type, you can take input, you can return anything. Yeah. And inside this, we are going to write logic. Now, since we are using functional interface, you can make usage of lambda expressions, you can make usage of method references, whatever the way you can make your code shorter. So that is the point where it comes to the quick startup and quick working of your application. Yeah. Another interesting thing you notice, there is no argument here. That also need not to be written. Automatically it will understand whatever the string will come, it will go there. Yeah. And the last one, the last scenario, okay, taking some input but not giving any output. Maybe you are just saving and you are giving just some status code to the user. Yeah. So again, for this post mapping can be used. The example I have taken is taking a string input from the user and printing it on my console. So I'm not returning anything here. Now for this, as you see in the functional interface, we have something like consumer with us. So consumer will just accept and it will never return anything. So that can be made usage of. So again, we can say consumer out of it. Yeah. And believe me, just by these three simple scenarios, we have covered all the situations. Whatever you think, it can be covered in all these three scenarios. Besides this, we never ever do anything in our Spring REST applications. Either it is taking some input and returning something, or it is taking some input and returning nothing, or it is we are not taking input and we are just returning. Yeah. I'm not considering some batch jobs here which will keep on running automatically. Those I'm not considering. Yeah. Because there we neither take anything nor we return anything. But still we can say they will be returning some success message. Yeah. So that was the thing. Now let's proceed for creating the application. So I'm having the application ready with me just to save our time. And I guess I have taken around 30 minutes. So I will be having almost 20 minutes more with me. So I'll quickly try to show you this application which is there. So again, you see it's a Spring Boot application. And here I'm connecting with the database also. Yeah. So in this application, here I have given I'm using the latest Spring Boot version 2.6.4. Yeah. And the Java version is 11. Again, we can go for 8 or 11 as of now. 17 is not there in AWS. Then the Spring Cloud version, we are using the latest. Yeah. Then here we are using Spring Cloud Starter Function Web. Yeah. So we are not using our normal Spring Cloud web dependency. Instead, we will be using Spring Cloud Starter Web. This will give us Spring Cloud function approach. The database which I will be using is DynamoDB, because if my application is serverless, my database also needs to be serverless only for a better approach. And you know that in AWS, the free database which is serverless is DynamoDB. I was having just a free tier account with me. Yeah. So that I'm using Spring Data DynamoDB. So these are two DynamoDB dependencies. Then, as I said, I need just to add an adapter for the cloud. So this is the adapter for AWS, one dependency. Yeah. And since we are using Lambda, so few Lambda dependencies I have added here to support this adapter. Yeah. So these are the only changes in your application. Rest it is the same way like we have our normal Spring Boot application. Yeah. Now if I go to my application, so you see all the layers are available: DTO layer, entity layer, repository, service, and all others layer. And this application is very simple. So it is something like that. In my entity, I'm having something job entity. Yeah. So a simple class I'm taking. So in my entity, there will be some job ID, which is going to be a number, and a job name. Yeah. Some job name is going to be there. Let's say software engineer, CEO, and all these are going to be there. Yeah. We can make it more complex also. Now for this, in this particular class, com Java today's, along with your main method. So that is the main important stuff. Along with the main method only, you will be writing all your functional interfaces. So here I'm having one functional interface create job. What it will do, it will accept a job DTO from the user. Then it will call the service method create job, which goes somewhere here, and that will just save in the database, and the output will be nothing. The scenario I'm using so that I can explain you consumer. Similarly, the other one is supplier. So here I'm having a method fetch jobs, which is just going to retrieve the all the jobs from the database and it will show you. So it is a supplier. Yeah. A list will be thrown. Then there is something delete job, which will accept an integer from the user and then it will give it to the service and then it will delete it if it is there and it will return a string message. Yeah. And this way you can accept anything, you can return anything just with the help of these three things: consumer, supplier, and function. Now we don't need those traditional controllers which were annotated with @rest controller. They are not required anymore. Only this much can do our job. If you are thinking what is going to be the URL, so this method name is going to be the URL. So these method names will be our URLs. Yeah. And if you wish to change the URL, so here again you can give in the bracket some different URL you can give. That will also work here for us. Yeah. So that is the one here. So that's the thing. So what we will do is we will quickly deploy this application on AWS and then we'll see how it works. So for AWS DynamoDB, as you know, I just need to have this DynamoDB configuration where I basically need the DynamoDB endpoint, some AWS access key, and some AWS secret key. Yep. So these things are there with me here. And then in my resources, let me just show you. I can show that won't be an issue. So here, this is just my application name, some port number. Since I will be deploying it on AWS, it doesn't matters. Yeah. Here, this is just a function definition. I'll show the importance of it later on. These things are not going to work. uh, this is endpoint. So since I will be hosting my application in Mumbai, so this is the endpoint. So this is an old access key, this I will be changing, and this is the old secret key for AWS. Again, I will be changing these things. Yeah. So they are going to be there with me, and we are going to get all these things from AWS after this. Yeah. So, and again, I'm showing that here I'm having four things, but here I have just mentioned only one out of them, that is fetch jobs. Because on Lambda, we can just deploy only one function at a time. But then also, how we will be able to see all these things into the action, that we will see very soon. Yeah. Now, coming back to this last final part, that in AWS, what all things I will be using. So today in AWS, I will be using IAM so that I can create a particular custom role, as well as I can create a user from where I can get the secret key and the access key. I will be using S3 to save my application so that I don't need to upload it again and again. I will be just saving the jar file. I will be using DynamoDB for my database. It's a serverless. I will be using Lambda to deploy my application, and I will be using API Gateway to give me the URLs and generate the URLs for me. Yeah. So all these things we are going to use. So let me see. Yeah. So there is no queries. Let's proceed then. So here we are coming. Now here we go. So this is our AWS, and here quickly let's start doing our work. So first of all, we'll go to this IAM and create the necessary rules for it. Okay. So first we are going to create a user so that we can get the access key and the secret key. So yeah, as of now there is no user, so I'll click on it and I'll create a user. and the username will be my name or any name we can use. So we'll say access key. Now the permissions which I need to attach to it is related to DynamoDB because that I want to access. So I'll say full access, I'll say read only access, and I'll say this execution role. So all these three rules I need. If you wish, you can give the complete custom role also, complete admin role, that is also fine. Otherwise, minimum three: full access, execution role, and DynamoDB invocation are required. Uh, sorry, yeah, read only access is not there. Other three are there. Okay. So now we'll say tags. There is no tags, and yeah, we are good to go. So we'll create this. Now I'll quickly copy this access ID. Later on, I'll delete it, so it won't be any big issue for me if I show you, I guess, and here it goes. So these things I have done. It's done for me. Yeah, I'll hide it out. Then we'll go for the next. So the user has been created. Now we'll create a required custom Lambda rule because I want my Lambda also to connect with the DynamoDB. So for this, we'll create a custom Lambda rule. Let's say Lambda. Next, and here I'll go for DynamoDB. I'll search it again. I need a full access, I need some execution role, and I need the Lambda invocation DynamoDB. So I'll say next, and I'll call it by the name of any name you can call it, doesn't matter as much. Lambda role, and there I'll say create role. Yeah, and yeah, our role is created. So you see now I have 10 rows and one user. So my IAM part is done. Now I will be going to my DynamoDB and creating a quick database. So DynamoDB is going to provide you free serverless databases for the usage. Yeah. Okay, it's a little slow, I guess, today. Okay, fine. Let's create a table here. I'll call it by the name of job because in my entity, this was the name, the primary key. So here the partition key is nothing but our primary key. That's job ID and it needs to be an integer number. I'll say customize settings and there I'll say just I want it on demand, nothing much. And all the basic settings I'll say and we'll say create table. So we'll see that it will be created quickly and it won't take much time since it is serverless in nature. Yeah. So I'll just give it a refresh and you see it's there. It's just created that quick. Yeah. Now we will add some items here. So we'll say create item and job ID, let's say 1. And I want to add some attribute, which is a string. Let's say a job name and let's call it as a software engineer. Yeah. So these two things I'll say and I'll call it as create item. Yeah. So when I do this, my data has been created here for 1 now. So DynamoDB part is also done. Now let's go to our S3 bucket so that we can create S3. And what are we going to deploy there? So let me create a jar file out of my application. So here I'll see run as and I'll call it as where it went, even build. So because of time, I need to be little quick. Otherwise, I could have taken your doubts also in between. Or we can later connect on LinkedIn for this purpose. That won't be an issue. So here we just need to create a jar file which we want to deploy it on S3. Yeah. So here I'll create a bucket. Let's give it a name as my recruitment academy. My recruitment academy and region any we can choose, it doesn't matter as much. No other things. I'll just say simple and I'll just create a bucket just by the default. I don't want to make it more specific to AWS, but Without that, it won't work. Yeah. Now we'll go inside it, my recruitment academy, and let me see. Yeah, my jar file is ready with me. Let me just quickly deploy it. So here I will upload my jar file. So this AWS jar file, and you see around 31 MB it is. So we will upload it here, and we'll say upload. So it will take some time to upload. Around 78% is left. Yeah, nothing much. So that is there. Once you upload it, same jar file can be used for almost all the functions. Yeah. Now we are just left with the creation of the function. Yeah. Let me open it in the another tab because I need the URL also for this constantly with me. So yeah, here it is. And let me open Lambda parallelly. So here I go to Lambda, and here we go, Lambda. Now I'll create a function here. So we, as I said, everything is going to be a function. You can't deploy whole application. It will be just one function. Yeah. So let me call it at func1, that is function one. The runtime will be either you can say Java 11, or in Java you can say 8 and 11 are available, only two. So mine is 11. Then rule, I will add the one which I created as custom lambda rule, that I'll add here, and I'll say create a function. Yeah. So this will add a function for me. Yeah. But if you see, there is no EC2 instance will be created for it. That is not going to be visible to us. Yeah. Now here I just need to make a small change. Like in our application, we added a required dependency. Here we need to change this handler also. Yeah. That again I have mentioned in my README file. If you require, I can share my GitHub link later on with you guys for this purpose, where all this thing will be ready, and that I'll save it. So that is also done. Yeah. And now the final thing, I need to upload my code here. Yeah. So let's take the URL of our code, and let's say we either you can upload a jar file, or you can just tag it with this S3 location. So jar file, we are tagging it here. Yeah. And yeah, that is done. Now that's it. Now it's time comes to test the application. So here only we'll go, and first we will test here, then later on, if the test works fine, then we will generate the required thing for it. Yeah. Required API gateway will generate, but first we can just test it here. Now which URL it will be testing out of all our application? Just for the fetch jobs, because we mentioned it in our properties file. Yeah. Only one function has been deployed, not the whole application. And you see, it's success. So we are able to get this output software engineer. The first request took around 4500 milliseconds, but the more consequent request you will make, the time will come to very small, 22. First request will take more time because of the cooling period, but all other requests are going to be very fast enough. Yeah. So we were success in this. Now let's add a gateway so that you guys can also hit the API. So we'll add this API gateway, which is going to be REST in nature. So we'll say create an API, REST API, and let's make it open without any configuration as of now. And yeah, here comes my gateway. So I'll say open link in new tab, and there comes my output. So this is our output, guys. And now you guys also, if you wish, you can hit, and in the chats you can put it up here. Yeah, you can hit this. It's just a get URL. Is there a way to automate function package plus configuration approach? Yes, that also can be done. So within AWS also, if we are using the AWS client, so there we can make all these things, but currently I'm not using basically in our demo, so I just wanted to make it simple. But then we can automate the whole process with the help of DevOps. So you can hit the URL, and then you can see how quick it is going to be. The first request is slow. If there are no requests for say 1 hour, will it become slow again? Yes, that is going to be the case, and that is not actually 1 hour. it will be something around 20 minutes, as I said. So every cloud platform is having a different time whenever it is going to be up. For that purpose, what we can do is we can make something like a dummy request. So after every 20 minutes, if from outside there is no request, so this will only keep on calling our application. Yeah. So that something quick we can do just to ensure that our application keep remain alive. Yeah. But that is not going to cost us anything much. Yeah. So that is the one. Now let's see that one URL is created. How can we make others? Okay. So for this, I'll again go back and I'll create a new function again here. Let me call it as func2, and let me add Java 11 Corretto. Again, let me use the same rule. Again for this, if we are using it from the some command line runner, then we can make this process also. I mean, some template can be created, but as of now I'm not showing that. Yeah. Now here again, this edit handler, all these things we need to change back to this one, that is the dependency. Second one I'm doing, and in the second one also, let me first do the configuration in the second. So I'll go to the configuration section of it, and there I'll add a environment variable. Now this environment variable, if you see, is going to be nothing but something which I mentioned earlier in my properties file, that is Spring Cloud function definition. So now I'm going to change the definition here at the runtime, and now I want that it should be using create job. So instead of fetch job, it should be using create job. How I came to know regarding this name? From this one, that is where it went here. So my function name I have kept there. Now it will be using this. So I will just save it, because one function can, I mean, function means function only. Yeah. It's not a whole application. So that we have configured here, guys. And now let me again reuse that. So from S3 again, I can reuse. So that was the benefit of saving it in S3, that I don't need to upload it again and again. Yeah, so there it goes. And here also you will see that this is a separate thing. So here also the first application is going to be a little slow, but let me take this input from here and change it as per my requirements. So let's call it the job ID as 2, and let's add a person who is a CEO of our company to this and see if it works or not. Going to add a CEO here. If I'm able to get a success message here, then there we can hit a get same request again. So you see, I'm getting a success. Okay. And parallelly, if I hit the same old API, so there you see that I'm getting the output. And now the more request will come, the output is going to be that much quick. Yeah. So it's that particular case. Yeah. So that is also there. For this also, if you wish, we can just add a trigger and some new trigger, some API. This also we can create so that we can call it from the Postman also if required. Otherwise, one testing can be done here. More testing we can do from the Postman. So in case if you guys are having a Postman available with you, then you guys can hit this URL and you guys can also test it out. There we go. So this is the one you guys can also test. So that was pretty much which I wanted to show here. There are a few more things, but for that, I guess I need more time for this. And here we won't be having, I guess I'm already running with the time. We have already went around 15 minutes. The time should be over by now. So in case if you have any queries, then I will be happy to take all your queries. Otherwise, in case if there is no query, so you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Yes. So I'm a Java trainer and usually I take these sessions. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can connect through my email IDs also. So I'll provide both these things in the chats, and there it goes.
Thank you, Pishek.
Yeah. Thanks, friend.